wanting to create, wanting to make something new, wanting to be a part of something bigger than yourself, creating, being a Habesha in the DMV. Well, that's just life, or as we call it, Hiwet.
My name is Simon Manasseh. My producer name is Steady Macon, and I am a music producer.
My name is Jonas Rosario, and I'm a designer. I founded a brand called Habesha, which means one world in Tigrinya.
My name is Tuel Muse, and I'm a rapper.
And wanting to make something new doesn't just come out of nothing. It comes from ideas. It comes from a younger year of them, when they were children, when they were learning about themselves time before, creating the consistency to want to create. So, in our minds, the one question to ask is, what caused you to want to be a creative?
It was a lot of just pursuing and cultivating different interests, and they all came together in the form of design. And I mean, when I say design, I'm talking about fashion and clothing. I was interested in the arts, and I loved music. I loved film. I was movies. I was too young to know even the word film. I just loved movies. And I think to me, what I liked most and what I loved most was the way people were able to express things. I like trying to understand the meaning, especially with art. I took a couple art classes in high school, and in the beginning of every class, there would be this exercise. She would just give us a random piece, and we'd have to write a short paragraph, trying to give our thoughts and our interpretation of what we were looking at. And so that was always fun to me. It was kind of like a discovery. It was kind of like an investigation, and trying to decipher what somebody's meaning is. And I feel the same way about music. So I don't know. I think that was the start of it, and then from there it's just exploring different interests and putting them together. Clothing to me is the way to put it together.
I mean, I always had a passion for music, specifically rap, because that was what kind of got me into music, what I found myself in, I'd say. So growing up, it was a lot of 50 Cent, a lot of Lil Wayne that I watched on BET and MTV, any music videos that I got put on by my big cousins. So I mean, from then it just kind of, snowballed into, I just like listening to it. I love watching the videos, anything, learning about the artist's life. And then it's just naturally transitioned, snowballed into, let me see if I can, make some art myself, make some raps myself. So I'd say I started writing about 6th grade when I was 11 and 12. And then, I kind of kept it to myself, and then would send it to specific people like my cousins and stuff like that who would listen to it and just keep giving the feedback yo, keep going, this is kind of good.
So my base, I was always in love with sports. I was a basketball player for pretty much my whole life. And then really, I always had a love for music. I was always listening to music. I was always into music. Trying to get, especially 8th, 9th grade is when I really got into hip hop. And that just stayed with me continually. And then, of course, they say, I heard this artist say, if you really love music, everybody who really loves music tries to make it. And so whether that's playing an instrument or singing or whatever, I dabbled in it, but then I took it serious towards the end of college when I got a new laptop, and I was like, let me try this one more time. And then once I started, I just didn't stop. I kept going.
Growing up as a Habesha, growing up as a DMV creative, there's two different worlds that you see it as. You see the world of the generation before you. people that came all the way from Eritrea and Ethiopia to America to make a way to try their best to have you here. And then you see the DMV. You see what that all entails, being from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. People who are just trying their best to make it, who are hustlers, who are trying to get things out there and bring the best out of them. Full of untapped potential of talent that people just don't seem to notice. But if you're in the area, you know the people in the area, you get that.
When I was younger, and when I say younger, I mean up until probably around college, I more so wanted to distance myself from culture rather than, well, Ethiopian and Eritrean culture, rather than pull in closer. I think, like, there's an element of being embarrassed. I went to I was the only Ethiopian in my school, Habesha person in my school until high school. And then in high school, I was like one of a handful. And in elementary, middle school, like people like, oh, your mom has an accent. Not your mom, your family has an accent. Like you want to distance from that. I say in college, I joined the Ethiopian Student Association. And even that, I did it reluctantly. I only did it because my friend was going. And I kind of wanted to avoid it again. And it was there that I discovered kind of an interest. And the more I learned about history, and I really love history. It's kind of a separate thing for me. It wasn't tied to my culture. I just like history in general. I think learning about history and how nuanced Ethiopian Eritrean history is, it's not as straightforward as I thought it was. I think that sparked the curiosity. And then when it came to art, I think it was
a blessing to be able to love what makes you, if that makes sense. Because growing up, I ain't gonna lie, I went to all white school, so being different or being culturally, ethnically, you coming in the school smelling like onions and stuff like that, nobody in the room understands that, so naturally you kind of shift back and wait, hold up, maybe this is not what it's all cracked up to be. But growing up, as you grow, obviously people now, it's like the thing to be, not just Habesha, but just being in touch with your roots, and that's such a amazing feeling, such a great feeling that you can be able to trace back to where you come from and oh, this is why I act like this or whatever, stuff like that. So as I grow, it's a beautiful feeling to have that. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't always like that, is what I'm trying to get at. As a kid, it was dang, you kind of hid the fact that you were not hid the fact, but what I'm trying to say. It's just it wasn't popping to be ethnically different.
Between my dad, playing, the jump in with the big horns and, that energy that comes from that style of Habesha music, and then my mom, every Saturday morning playing mezmur, waking up hearing that, and that is still probably the most powerful music out of anything that I've heard is mezmur, I'd say, no question. But that just, I would say, more so kind of helped me to recognize my love for music overall. I don't know if it necessarily influenced my style, but it's probably subconscious if it did.
It was just connecting all the things I was learning about our culture with a desire to contribute to issues and causes that are relevant to being Habesha.
I mean, I just have a love for the area in general. I would say, I enjoy go-go music, but I can't say that was a direct influence into the sound I make. I'd say the two artists, probably, most people know, Marvin Gaye, originally from DC, and Wale, he came up around the time I started getting into hip-hop. And I always had that love of music, but for me to start making music, the specific artists are not from the DMV, but I would just say being here, I feel like it's open because a lot of people in general, you don't see a lot of mainstream big name artists coming out of the DMV who really have staying power, or they're just underappreciated. So I guess to answer in short, the DMV influence in the sense of more so just personality, style, and things of that nature.
Sure, I mean the DMV, unlike any other place, man. You know, it's just swag is different, style is different, everything just different. So inspirations, I mean, Wale was, you know, holding it down for a long time. So Wale is still like, you know, top of my list when it comes to creators in general. But obviously being from the DMV, I was a big like Logic fan when he was first coming up. So Maryland and that, you know what I'm saying, DMV, Rico Nasty, Brant. It's just so much, you know, flavor that DMV has to offer. So, you know, you try to emulate, you know, what you see, and all these people have been doing on a high level for such a long time. So, yeah, DMV got something to say, man.
The impact of the DMV, like, as a Habesha person in general, is great because there's so much, our community is so large here. So a lot of the people I've learned about culture from, I feel like it's only because there's so many people here. Like if I was in, you know, the Midwest or the South where there's less, or even like North America, like there's not too many people in New York, I feel like I would have less of access to learning about, you know, Habesha culture and like learning about history. But because there's so many people here, like, you know, you go to coffee shops and people will tell you things. You go into Uber, somebody can teach you something that they've been through. You know, like you can't really escape like meeting a Habesha person here. And I think I'm pretty open to like conversations with strangers. So I've learned a lot just from being here and like talking to people.
So you
But
learn to create, and as you're growing, that's not the only thing that grows. Sometimes your creativity is not the only thing that grows. Sometimes there's doubt that grows. Sometimes in yourself. But sometimes it's also from within your own culture, within that place that you get to call home. So what does it look like to people? What does that feel like to people? What does it feel like to you when you create?
yeah, I mean, I would say there was tension and friction, trying to explore. Like I didn't start with clothing, so like my exploration was like with photography and videography. Yeah, graphics. I started doing all types of stuff after college, and there was tension, and I understand it though, because a lot was sacrificed to come here, and I think like the idea of doing something that's like uncharted and you know what I mean, like it's sort of the Wild West trying to make it as a creative, and I could see how from their perspective it's like, you know, you're chasing something at the expense of like protecting yourself, which I think is like the perspective that, you know, older generation has, is to protect yourself and to ensure that your family is okay, and that's wise. So I respect it. But there was pushback for that reason.
I mean, being Habesha, rap is kind of looked down upon, at least when I was growing up. You know, I feel like now, you know, people like us are a little older than us who's becoming the parents, so, you know, the love is kind of, you know, it's shifted. So, but growing up definitely was just looked down upon. Well, I feel like anything from our generation, like when you get the parents' perspective, it's always like, man, back in our day it was this, you know, you call this music, stuff like that. So it was a little bit of that, but I mean, I just liked what I liked. My older cousins was all listening to it around me, so I just naturally gravitated towards it. I just loved everything about rap. So yeah, I mean, being Habesha kind of, I don't want to say deterred it, but like, you know, I wouldn't be out in the open listening to it with my parents or anything like that, so I kind of would hide it or whatever, you know, put the headphones on, stuff like that, but that's it.
It's funny. I was just talking to somebody who's not from the DMV, and they were talking about the whole hustle culture and all that stuff here. And it can definitely be toxic, but I would say, in a sense, that kind of, you know, mentality of just grinding, take out the toxic part of like being fake and all that stuff, definitely plays an advantage, because it's just naturally like the artists from here like develop that work ethic, and I would say that's the case for me too. We have to work that much harder because there's not a lot here as far as the music scene. If you're not in go-go, or if you're not kind of like a singer, like R&B type vibes, yeah, trying to make it into like rap, hip-hop, or just anything of that nature, you definitely have to work way harder, because here people don't mess with you if you don't have that status. You know, it's not like, unfortunately, it's not like other places where it's like they really support their own and stuff like that. It's like you pretty much got to go somewhere and show out, and then when they show love, you'll come back and people will see, oh, he has motion now, or he's popping, and then they'll appreciate you more. So in a sense, the advantage is like not having as much makes you work harder.
As these ideas grow, and even though that negativity happens, you keep going. And in going the distance, and to keep on going with the creative belief that you have and the creative expression that you believe in, what's next? What is there to learn from that? What do you get to see in yourself?
I kind of let go of all of that. I learned those lessons from a previous era of my life where I had different passions, and I learned to really just do this, you know, for the love of music, and just giving glory to God for this gift that he's given me.
Yeah, I mean, just like everything in life, you know, anything worthwhile is not gonna come easy. So, you know, it takes a little grit, takes a little bit of elbow grease, and you know, when you get to the end of the line, like, you know, all that hard work that you put in, and you see the fruits of your labor, it just makes everything like the reward that much better.
Be more involved in like cultivating community. It's not so much reaching out and trying to be approved by other people, but it's about like making space for people to come, you know, and to like feel like, hey, we have a home here, you know. And I think any endeavor that you do, even if you're a photographer and you're just trying to host a gallery or a viewing of your work, like, community is the root of everything.
A new age for the DMV to see new, young Habesha creatives just aren't ready to quit. And this might be a way for them to see that there is a possibility. The example is shown here. What's next for them? What's some steps, ideas, advice? Anything to keep their mind going and their heart racing, to keep being motivated, to keep going.
I just being, you know, your authentic self. Let them know it's okay to be themselves. Let them know whatever you want to put on record, as long as it's, you know, something you're proud of and it's positive and it's just, you know, you happy with. Just go ahead and do that, man. You know, and I feel like being somebody like, as myself, like I got 2 little brothers, so always being open to, if y'all want feedback, you want criticism, let me know. Like, it's all love. Like, I never portray myself to be like man, you gotta get it on your own. Like, you know, obviously, you know, you gotta learn some things on your own, and, you know, some experiences that only you can go through, that you can learn from. But in general, like when it comes to representation, or when it comes to putting on and just, you know, really showing love to the Habesha community, I feel like we only hinder ourselves if you don't become that, you know, that shoulder for somebody to, yeah, man, I got you, don't need trip.
Keep God first. You're gonna need a hope, because it's difficult, and I don't know anybody that it's not been difficult for. Like, even people who are successful, it's been difficult for everyone. So you need a source of hope, and, you know, I believe God. I know God is the source of hope. And then after that, I'd say, like, you know, put goals on yourself, put times on yourself, and be strategic about what you do. But curiosity is first before any of that. If you, like, I think if you ever find yourself kind of like off the path, you should ask, have I been curious lately? You know, like, have I been exploring lately? Because if not, I think you're just going to be stuck, and creativity is always evolving.
That initiative, and if there's nothing available, a lot of times, like, I feel like it's us now in this current time frame where you see people creating the spaces that we were looking for. We realized it's not here, so we got to do it ourselves. And it gets tricky because, you know, people don't want to get caught up in, oh, they're hosting this platform and it takes away from their own art. But from what I've seen, it's mutually beneficial. So just throwing that out there, like, don't be afraid to create the spaces that we need in this area. It's not like you can't still do your thing in advance. Yeah.